Okay, guys. So this is our Shark Tank and how I built this presentation for Team One.
So to start out, we want to talk about the how I built this episode that we looked at. We decided to look at ThreadUp, which was founded by James Reinhart. He created ThreadUp with the initiative to make fashion more sustainable, and also to combat issues of waste associated with fast fashion. A lot of people are typically surprised to hear how much textile waste impacts the environment. And it's interesting to think about how a lot of clothing and fabric, despite it being donated, somewhere down the line tends to end up in landfills or is incinerated. So the fact that ThreadUp offers a way for people to sell their clothing for reuse is really good in reducing textile waste. And ThreadUp does this online, similarly to consignment stores or thrift stores. But since it's online, it gives people a little bit more ease of access, and it's an easier way for people to have a positive impact on the environment.
Oh, Olivia, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Some background about ThreadUp is that James Reinhart started his own lawn mowing business at age 10. Then he started outsourcing to his friends, which grew his management and delegation skills. Our disposition takeaway is that he had shown success and drive in different ventures since he was young. He tends to act on his ideas rather than sit on them.
And here we have our Shark Tank pitch analysis. We picked three different pitches. The Tata Towels on the top left, Scrub Daddy in the middle, and Haven Lock on the right.
All right, so the first product we decided to take a look into was the Scrub Daddy, and that is basically a sponge that can change its texture level and hardness depending on whether you soak it in cold water or hot water. And what it does is it wants to help take the load off washing dishes so much. Why would you need a bunch of different sponges when you can just have the one Scrub Daddy that can do multiple things? And it has the holes for the eyes and the mouth, which can help get handles and spoons and stuff. So it makes cleaning dishes much more easier on the person who is washing the dishes. And it was started out as being, Aaron Krause started the company. He invented the product while he was working on cars, and he saw that it works perfect on cars, and he stopped that and brought it back and started using it in the kitchen, which is when he realized he had a major product on his hand. And he started his business, and it grew a lot, and he was doing a lot of profit. And then he took it to the sharks because he needed his own production plant to bring down his production costs, and ultimately bump up his profits. He was looking for $100,000 for 10% stake in his company, so he valued it at $1 million, which was a very good estimate for his business because the sharks offered him $200,000 for 20%, which is the same $1 million estimate, but they just wanted a little bit more control in the company, so they had better say over how it goes to make the risk more manageable. And they place this in retail stores and like grocery stores and like Walmart, Target for that, so the regular homeowner can go in there and see this product and realize that it would help them out and solve the problem in their own kitchen of dishes that are too hard to clean. And so investment wise, I would definitely invest in this personally because I think his margins were great. Excuse me. And he knew what he had, so he didn't let the sharks talk down on his product, and he made them want the product and give him the money so he could continue to increase his product and build his production line. because we would, the one thing that we were thinking of was how could he increase that production line so that way he has different products that people actually want to keep buying so he can stay in business. And personally, I would definitely use this in my own house because I like to cook, and cooking gets a lot of dishes. And this product definitely shows that it is well worth it to be in the kitchen.
I totally agree. My family has used Scrub Daddies for a long time and they work really well. Um, so personal usage opinions, they get a big thumbs up from me. I use them often. And I actually didn't know that, like, one of the things that stood out a lot to me was that it started as a car washing scrub. I didn't know that actually for the longest time, because I was only ever introduced to them when I saw them in places like Walmart and in my own home for dishwashing use. So definitely would invest personally in the company.
All right. Our second product that we chose for our Shark Tank pitch was the Tata towels. These were a reversible towel kind of bra that was aimed at reducing like underboob sweat and helping customers that would be more comfortable with moisture related issues, particularly like around the house, breastfeeding, or like after a shower. It was made like by women for women. She actually started by sewing them herself in her own home, and even now they are produced entirely by hand in the US. She personally valued her company at about $2 million. So she was asking for $200,000 for 10% stake. The Sharks did not agree with her value, and they did end up cutting her a deal for $200,000 for 40% of her company, which was extremely different from what she asked for. Her market was women usually about a C cup or larger who would have a need for this kind of product. It was sold exclusively online. And a question we would have for her is how eco-friendly her actual product materials are, because she does make an effort to make them in an eco-friendly way, but like are the materials she uses also sourced ethically? The Sharks asked her how she planned to make her profit margin that she was aiming for by the end of the year, which was $2 million within 6 more months. I believe her answer to that question was really what tanked her chances at getting what she was asking for. She told them that she had about $200,000 in stock, but she was unsure about what to do with it or how to make those sales. And her being underprepared to explain how she planned to make the goal that she had set for herself was really what hurt her chances in getting the Sharks to invest more in her company, because they definitely saw her as a risk due to her mostly blowing up online, being viral. And then they were worried that putting a bunch of money into her would lead to her losing momentum as her viral videos became less popular, and then her company would completely tank. So while she didn't actually get the investment she was hoping for, they did invest in her company for a large portion of it. Personally, I probably wouldn't have invested. I don't think that it was worth it for what was being offered. I'm not sure I would use them either. Maybe not a product aimed for me, but what stood out was definitely her not being prepared to make her pitch for the Sharks and make it convincing, because they did really latch on to that answer to the question, her being unsure of how to even make the sales for her products or make the goal that she had set for herself.
I agree that her answer to the question of how she'd make the sales really did kind of tank her chances of success, especially with how she expressed her background in in the product going viral. Typically, like, products going viral is a really great way to like start the momentum of selling a product. But unfortunately, the way she explained it didn't make it sound like she was super dedicated into putting time into advertising on social media. So it really did sound like she was underprepared or she did not have many ideas of how to boost sales.
What about you, Garrett? Would you invest in Tata towels?
I can't speak on the personal usage, but just from a business perspective and her margins and price points that she had, I just don't think it would have been a good investment.
Yeah. All right. So we have the Haven lock. We picked this one because this is well known as one of the most hilarious pitches on Shark Tank like ever. They like wailed at the door to show like breaking down a deadbolt door versus trying to break down a door with the Haven lock product. And it was hilarious. So if you guys want to pull that up and check that out, it's really funny. But Haven Lock is made by Clay Banks and Alex Bertelli. And it's a doorstop that's activated by a foot press mechanism at the bottom of the door. And it's made to be more secure than a deadbolt. It would be to increase security in places like homes or businesses or schools. The Sharks were all out on this pitch actually because of logistical reasons over cash flow and margin. Haven approximated it at $8.3 million and wanted $500,000 for 6% stake. And customers that it's typically aimed to would be people that owned places like homes, so homeowners and business owners and schools. The market placement for this product is fully aligned. So in order to get one, you have to order. They aren't sold in stores. The Sharks asked how they were selling in schools, and they mentioned that they were approached by a superintendent, and they actually placed 94 of their products in classrooms. And a question that we had for them over this would be how to reduce costs for those who can't afford the high price point, because it was like $172 for the regular one, something like that, and like 300 something for the Bluetooth version. So when it comes to a product like this, you think of people who are willing to invest that kind of money for security that aren't using deadbolts. They would and using electronic devices like that. You think of like keypad type electronic doors that go throughout an entire house rather than having to have a product at every single door and then locking it in place at every single door. And so when it comes to like places like classrooms, when it comes to investment and personal opinion, I wouldn't use one personally, especially because of the price point. And also because it might be more cost effective to have electronic lock mechanisms in like my home area or business. But I would invest in it, however, if it were being used in old buildings and old schools, because there are some situations where you can't do electronic lock systems, and older buildings that aren't being made for that security purpose, like some newer school buildings are, would probably really benefit actually from a stronger door stop mechanism at the bottom of the door. So yeah.
I definitely agree. I think it's not something I would use personally, especially at the price point they were asking. But I also don't believe that I would invest in it just because what they were asking for and versus what they were giving, so 500,000 for only 6%, was an extremely low value for anyone investing in their company, especially considering that for what they were selling it at, it didn't seem very likely that they would make a lot of sales, especially to the homeowner kind of area that they were looking to sell it in. It just seemed kind of impractical.
I agree.
I also agree that they didn't really market in the right area. Like for personal use, it's definitely too expensive for not being able to go into a store and see it and kind of feel the material and really like confirm to yourself that it would definitely work. I do think I would have invested in it personally if they had maybe been willing to market specifically towards schools. I think that with the rise in school shootings, I think that this type of system would be really good for schools. It would be really easy for schools under lockdown to automatically, like with Bluetooth, get all of these locks up like simultaneously throughout the whole school. And I do think that there may be schools that would have had a budget to be able to afford their price points. But definitely personal use, it was not a very good demographic.
Totally agree, especially on like the purpose, you know, for locks such as this, and like for safety situations for schools. I definitely think really marketing it towards that kind of a customer would have really benefited them, I think.
Our discussion question for you would be, why do you think Scrub Daddies became so popular as it did and Tata Towels didn't?
And that's the end of our slideshow, guys. So at the right here, I didn't put the video links. I actually put the links to their websites for anyone who's interested in the products themselves, or in like the stories that the entrepreneurs and, you know, like website builders have there about the product and about how it came to be. And I also put the Haven Lock video though here, just because it was very entertaining for all of us. And I figured, you know, if anyone's interested, they might want to have a link to it. So that's everything. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we close out? All right. Well, let me figure out how to shut this off. And